Good afternoon. Thank you so much for giving me the space and time to share with you a little bit about my own involvement with Stop Ecocide. My name is Femke Wijdekop. I'm a Dutch lawyer and I became involved with the work to make ecocide, the massive damage and destruction of ecosystems, a crime against peace back in 2013. That's when I first heard Polly Higgins talk about her vision for a world free of ecocide. It was through a TED Talk that she gave, and I watched that on New Year's Day, and I was so delighted to hear and to learn about her very holistic and very ecocentric perspective on how we as humans relate to the earth and how we can use law in order to create a change in consciousness and to further an awareness of our interconnectedness with the natural world. And of course, to use law as a very effective tool for deterrence and for putting up boundaries on how we are allowed to treat the earth and her inhabitants. I was trained as a lawyer myself, and I had worked at the university for a couple of years. And after that, I worked in a very completely different field, namely in a bookstore, the American Book Center in Amsterdam, where I was very excitedly involved in buying and selling books about personal growth, about consciousness, about spirituality, about how we as humans can be a peaceful presence on the earth. So I sold and I bought those books, but I also was involved in hosting events on these kind of topics and interviewing authors and giving authors talks. And because of these contacts with the publishing world, I was enabled to interview some very interesting thinkers and people with an interesting vision. For example, Byron Katie or Marianne Williamson, Don Miguel Ruiz, and a few others. So that was quite an honor for me to be able to speak to such people, and it has influenced me also in my thinking now as a lawyer of how we can use both the left and the right side of our brain to come up with more creative and integrative visions on how law can be a tool in order to move to more peaceful coexistence on this planet. So when I heard Polly's TED Talk back in 2013, I started to use what I had at hand. I started to use my own experience in the world of communication. I started to use my own contacts and my legal knowledge to start to spread this idea. And I think my subconscious motivation was, how can I help this idea of ecocide as a crime? How can I help it to grow roots in my country and maybe even internationally? So that's what I've been doing, and I started to contribute through publication in a legal journal, and through giving interviews, and through holding an event with Polly Higgins, becoming part of a European Citizens Initiative to make ecocide a crime in Europe. All these kind of different involvements, but it was all about communicating the idea and assisting with the legal insight into how it might work. Well, what we've seen is that while the idea was originally quite a fringe idea, it was embraced by the Green and Progressive parties, but not yet by the mainstream. But now it has become really a topic of mainstream debate. A lot of press has been on ecocide the last year, also in the USA, thanks to the launch of the definition in June of this year. There was a very authoritative definition by a panel of top lawyers, and with that came a lot of good publicity. Also, it interested a lot of states. Actually, around 16 ICC member states are in touch with us to talk about how we can add ecocide as a fifth crime against peace to the Rome Statute of the ICC, as well as the European Parliament has spoken out 4 times in favor of the recognition of ecocide as a crime. And there are several European countries, among which Belgium and France, that have their own legislative proposal to outlaw ecocide, also of course on a national level, as well as involvement of, from among others, Chile and Mexico, and of course the Maldives and Vanuatu, and other European countries like Luxembourg and Sweden that are part of the conversation. So the International Parliamentary Union also gave a recommendation or a resolution in support of ecocide law, and we have the increased support of religious leaders, which is very important, that it's not only a leftish or progressive issue, but it should be, of course, embraced by other sides of the political spectrum, and the support of religious leaders like Pope Francis and of the Patriarch of the Orthodox Church that came in only a month ago is very instrumental in reaching other political parties, for example, that are more faith-based. So we see that the web of support for a law of ecocide is really becoming stronger. And it is wonderful for me as a citizen and as a lawyer and as a human being and as a mother to see how this idea from fringe became much more mainstream, and the momentum is growing. And it's growing because we are becoming more aware of the effects of our behavior on the natural world and on the longer term. So sadly, the ecological and existential crisis seems to be necessary to shake us up and to have us rethink our own position on this planet, and to rethink how law should guide our behavior and what should be the limits of behavior that is allowed and that is not allowed by the law. It has been a profoundly satisfying journey for me to be part of it, and I do my work with my mind, with my heart, and with my soul. And the vision of ecocide law is really rooted in values of care, of a duty of care, in an awareness of our interconnectedness with each other and with the natural world, and in an awareness of the dignity of us as humans, but also the dignity of other creatures on this planet. So it has, of course, a very ecocentric motivation. One could even say that it has some roots in ecofeminism. That's why it's a very heartening thing for me to do. Of course, we all hope that our work will be obsolete in a few years when ecocide is prohibited and we are no longer needed. But until that time, I will be giving my full dedication to this. And very much thank you for listening to talk about my own work. Looking forward to connect with you, because this issue of dignity, honoring our dignity, is very close to my heart and close to my own philosophy that I try to live by in my own life. So thank you very much, and I hope we can stay in touch, and I wish you a wonderful session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.